I've come today to Rutter Falls near Appleby in Cumbria just to re-photograph this scene. I've photographed it as a colour photograph, which you can see here. I came back in 2021, it was October I think, so an autumn scene, and I came in the morning. Today it's middle of the afternoon, it's 3:15, so the sun is quite high and it's quite a sunny day, so we've got harsh contrast. Now normally you wouldn't like that for landscapes, but in black and white it can work well, because you're looking for contrast. You're looking for contrast between shades and highlights and whites and blacks. So it's exactly what you want. Great thing about black and white photography, you don't always have to get up at silly hours of the morning or stay up till silly hours at night to get that beautiful golden hour. What I'm thinking about from the scene is what is going to be in contrast, so what is going to be white and black. And I'm going to go in, play about on the river now, find some compositions, take my camera with me and just frame myself. Now, you're going to walk about in a slippy river with wellies on, so just do take care. I'm not going to give you the usual health safety lecture, but just be aware that it's going to be slippy and there's a chance you might fall over. And that's why I like to do all this kind of stuff before I go in with my tripod, because that's yet another hazard. So if you can do as much as you can, work out where you're going to set yourself up before you get into the river, then you're going to save yourself potential for falling over and getting all your gear wet and potentially costing yourself a small fortune. Just having a walk around, sussing out where my location is going to be to take this. And what I'm conscious of is the bubbles on the water. On a long exposure, they're going to give me some highlights, some white lines. I've got these rocks over here on the right hand side, which are also light, so they're going to give me some contrast. And some key features I want to include: the water wheel I want to put on my bottom right rule of thirds crossing point. I want to keep the waterfall coming down a third of the way in from the left hand side. So I'm just playing around, probably move a couple of feet either way to see which I think I prefer, and then I'll set up and work out what exposure I need. There are a few non-photographic bits of kit that you'll need for photographing waterfalls, or potentially need anyway. So let me just go through those. First thing is get yourself some microfiber cloth. There's a good chance your gear, if you're getting close to the waterfall, it's going to get spray on it. So it's something useful to wipe that off, particularly to keep it off your lens so that you don't get water droplets on the lens spoiling your photograph. Another thing that's very useful is an umbrella for exactly the same reason. You know, you can keep the rain from falling onto your expensive camera gear and also keep it off your lens, especially if you're doing something like a long exposure. Another thing that's useful to carry with you is a weight for your tripod, because you're going to probably put your tripod into running water, and that will potentially make it move during your exposure. So having a weight or something of this nature that you can hang off it, or even hanging your bag off it, will help. And then finally, you need to keep yourself dry. So chances are you'll probably go walking about in the water, so you might want to put on some wellies and something like a waterproof coat as well. So I've got my camera set up in a position where I like the composition. I've worked out that I'm going to try for an exposure of around about a minute. I've got a 10-stop ND filter on, shooting at f11 to get that. So what I've done also, you'll see I've got the black and white creative look set on my camera, so I can see which are going to be the white and dark bits. So I'm getting a good idea if this will compose as a nice photograph. And I'm thinking about, when I do the long exposure, where those light lines are going to end up in the photograph, and I want them obviously to lead me into the frame. Getting the exposure time right is a matter of trial and error as to whether you've got enough silkiness in the water, whether you've got enough light white lines flowing through, or you feel you've got too much. It's really your choice. I'm starting with around a minute. I know that gives me quite a good amount of compromise between getting silky lines and not having it too dominant. So it's a bit different from my long exposure architectural photography, where you might expose for 5 minutes. I'm literally going to expose for about a minute, and then I'm going to play around with, if I'm not happy with that, I'll shorten it or lengthen it, depending on whether I want more water lines coming through or less. So I've got the shots I wanted. I've got 2 or 3 that I can play around with and see if they give me what I want. So it's really back to the studio, do an edit on those and see what we end up with. And then you can compare it for yourself. Do you like the black and white one better, or do you prefer colour? Back in the studio, and I've edited my photo. If you want to see how I edit photos like that, I'll leave a link to another video in which I explain that up here. Let me summarise a few key points for you. First thing I would say is make sure you suss out as much as you can about your composition and your settings and everything before you get in the water. That way you'll save yourself the potential of falling over and getting your gear wet. Secondly, I would say make sure you have something with you to protect yourself and your gear, you know, waterproofs, a cloth to wipe any spray off your lens and so on. Thirdly, I would say set your creative look to black and white in camera. Now shooting raw, so you've still got the option to change the file to colour if you wish, but seeing that creative look of black and white in camera will help you with your composition, because you'll be able to see the areas that are dark and light, and you'll be able to see how much contrast you've got. And finally, experiment with shutter speed to get the style of photo that you like. Perhaps it's a very dramatic waterfall and you want a short shutter speed to show the power and the force that's coming through. Or alternatively, if you want to create that dreamy, silky look, then you'll want a longer shutter speed. Let me know in the comments which of my photos you like. I'll show you the one straight out camera, the black and white edit I did, and the colour one I took previously. Right now I'm in favour of the black and white one because I'm in a black and white kind of phase with my photography. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Go out and have some fun with your camera and don't get too wet. I'll see you in the next video.